Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast. Not the Pixelists, the podcast about all the nerdy things we enjoy. I'm Will, that's Blake. Today we're here to talk some Critical Role.
Ooh, baby. Talking
baby.
Critical Role.
How you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. And for those of you that are like, whoa, our boy Blake looks extra good today. He had a bit of a camera upgrade, so he's making me look bad.
Teeny tiny camera upgrade. It's like a super like jerry rigged setup right now. So it's only gonna get better, really. But anyway.
Yeah. So I may have to see if I can, not carry my weight here and maybe improve, but we'll see. But yeah, so today we're here to talk about some Critical Role. I'm excited because, this is, I always feel extra amped up when we're coming back from, the longer breaks at the end of the month that they sometimes do. So super excited. It was a great episode. I mean, this isn't really the portion where we talk about our thoughts, but lore heavy episode. So really excited to kind of dive into it.
We're suckers for lore. We're big lore junkies. So anytime there's anytime Matt gives us like just a teat of lore drippage, we are just I don't know if that was like too far of a descriptor, by the way. But fine. We are shamelessly just we really enjoy that. So it was a really lore heavy episode. I'm excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, man, me too. And I guess without much further ado, we'll jump right into it. The only thing I even have to announce, feel free to jump in if you've got something I'm forgetting, is just another reminder that we are doing a little giveaway when we hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers. I actually haven't looked recently. I think we're maybe 20, 30 away. So coming up quick. All you gotta do is subscribe and earn yourself a potential copy of Tal'Dorei Reborn and maybe some dice or something. I mean, I
think we're gonna do like a cool dice set.
We said something about that, yeah. So,
which D&D Beyond did a free dice set also, and my wife was like super excited, and then she found out it was like the digital dice set.
Oh,
and she was like, oh.
So no coffee.
And then she was like, I guess in hindsight, I was wondering how that would be profitable for them to mail out dice sets to anyone who wanted it.
That's a good point. So, slightly less exciting, but, ours will be physical. So, yeah. So,
we're going to send you a awesome digital dice set with our faces on it.
So, yeah,
It'll be a stretch goal.
If you haven't subbed, maybe that can entice you. If you're not a person that subs to YouTube's, I get it. I'm kind of that way. It's hard for a channel to earn my sub. I don't know. I'm weirdly reluctant about it. So if that's you, I get it. No judgment. But if you're interested,
you heard it here first. If you're overly hipster about how you dole out your limited quantity of subs, we would appreciate you graciously gifting it to us.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, talk about the episode. Oh, by the way, Will and I, by the way, are also, I feel like this is so like us, by the way, of like talking recording plans and then it like never shows up again.
Yeah.
But we are talking about like other content to put on the channel. Like we have done a lot of Marvel stuff. We've done a lot of Critical Role stuff. We've done a little bit of D&D stuff. We're talking about also maybe doing some general like game discussion, like game controversy, drama, not even just drama, but just like interesting things in the Pixelist world, I guess, that we might want to talk about. I do think it'd be cool to have like a D&D like DM series or something, like, tips from a DM. How do you deal with an obnoxious player? Or I don't know. But anyway, now that we've mentioned it, you can know we're never going to do it. But
exactly. But yeah, I guess if y'all have any ideas and stuff in that vein that you'd like to see, definitely please let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Because we're all ears.
Having said that, let's talk about what happened on episode 29 of campaign 3 of Critical Role. And if you're not familiar with our recaps, maybe you're checking out the episode for the first time. What we like to do is we like to do a very brief recap, as brief as we can, for 4 hours plus of content. And then what we do is we take that recap and we cut it out, put it at its own video, so that if you're just trying to catch up, you can check that video out. If you're on that video and you want to hear our general thoughts, reactions, theories, or you want to contribute your own thoughts and theories, click on the link below to get our full discussion and let us know in the comments, not just what you thought of the episode, but also some of the crazy insights that you might have for the show. So Having said that, episode 29 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role, I'm going to do my best to recap this well. There was so much lore in this episode. This was definitely probably one of the heaviest episodes in terms of lore.
Yep.
So I do have some notes up. Will definitely feel free to jump in if I miss something. Only because the episode moved very quickly in terms of there was a lot of breadcrumbs of details as well.
Yeah.
So episodes opens up with where we left off. There's Birdie and Fern being grabbed by what we come to find out is you. It's a changeling from the Feywild. And they go by you, like why you? And Birdie's like, you let him right towards us. And immediately it's sort of like this Mexican standoff type moment of like, who's going to act first? Like what's going to happen? And there's really just a little bit of chatter. Yu's immediately casting shade on Birdie, being like, you can't trust her. She's lied to you. Like really trying to turn Fern even against Birdie. And Birdie is saying really the same thing back. Like, this person's here to kill me. They're from the Unseelie Court. Like, you can't trust them. And then also, like, in general, people are kind of like, okay, we don't like that Yu's been lying to us, but we also don't know what's going on with Birdie. And in kind of like the craziness of what's happening here, there is a moment that I'll go ahead and mention. And actually, there's going to be combat that happens in this episode. But Imogen actually does cast Detect Thoughts on Birdie and gets a whisper from Matt. And that immediately leads to her being knowledgeable and insightful on Birdie knows Ira, the Nightmare King. And so there's some, you would think that the group would just be like, oh, use the baddie, let's help Birdie. But actually the party's definitely torn. So there's, accusations getting thrown. People are asking Birdie for an explanation, like what's going on. Birdie actually reveals that Fern, we thought it was Imogen this whole time. It might still be. Birdie reveals that Fern is Ruidus born, that, years ago was born under the red surging moon. And that also for about 7 years now, the Feywild, which you could only ever see Katha in the Feywild, that the red moonlight of Ruidus has been shining through and has really unsettled the Callaways. In fact, it's caused the Callaways to really have these bad omens of something that is to come. And it's actually also what caused them to leave the Feywild. I don't want to steal any like the greater descriptions of the second half that she explains, Will. But basically, long story short, they stole the Moontide crown from the Unseelie Court, and they've been on the run for the last 6 years. There's also a revelation that it actually has been as many years as Fern thought it has happened, in the sense of like, for her, it has been 90 years versus the 6 for Birdie. Both of those seem to be true. And there's this weird realization that Birdie's actually younger than Fern. Birdie's only 50 years old. I think Fern is 112 maybe, or something in that regard. So that's a really weird, like, wait a second, I'm older than you kind of moment.
Yeah.
All this to say, combat begins. Birdie actually tries to go invisible, but Yu successfully holds on to Birdie. Birdie will slip by, but Ashton and maybe F.C.G, they bar the doors to keep Birdie from leaving. Like they're like, we're going to figure this out and talk this through. And there's some blows that are had. Fern attacks Yu. Orem actually disarms Yu at one point and then holds Yu's blade against them. Mister gets summoned. There's all sorts of like random attacks that happen. And all this to say, the party is basically trying to actually de-escalate and talk this through. There's even a point where Imogen just flatly announces or asks Birdie, hey, how do you know the Nightmare King? And Birdie's like, and it's kind of like this moment of like, oh, well, he's just helping us out. Like, he's helping us build something. And then I think it's either Ashton or Imogen says like, well, he's sacrificing children, right? And they're like, ooh, yeah, I didn't know that. But, hey, he was probably doing work for someone else. Like, we've all been like, trying to get cash together for this project that we're building. And all this to say, Imogen really pleads with Birdie to put down her sword and says, like, hey, you're the only one who's like really looking bad here, which you would think it would have been you. But they do have a ceasefire. They decide to talk it through. Birdie reveals something that we've been wondering, and that is that in a month's time is an apogee solstice, which, you know, there's a solstice that happens, but then there's like the best way to think of it is like sort of like a mega solstice that happens only once every 100 and something years,
like 120, I think, something like that.
120 years. Well, it's happening in 1 month's time, which if you've seen Calamity, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And they are really trying to finish building whatever they're building soon enough before the solstice happens. You sort of accusingly says like they're trying to like maybe blow up the moon. All this to say, Fern actually pickpockets you and gets this corrupted mirror of some kind. And Yu's basically like, hey, don't point that at anyone or it's going to be bad news. And Yu also says like, hey, you're also going to have a lot of other assassins coming after you, just FYI. Chenny basically says, well, if you give us a month's time just to sort all this out, to figure all this out, we'll hand the Moontide Crown back over to you. And Yu's pretty much like, okay, deal. Like, I will kind of continue to pass along breadcrumbs of information to my boss and sort of stall, but in a month's time, I'm coming back for the crown, and you better have it ready for me. So, were there other details that I mentioned from this first half? There was a lot.
There was a lot. I think you hit the main strides, you know, for the purposes of this recap. But it was kind of a lot happening, and a lot of it boiled down to like getting to the ceasefire moment, you know. But yeah, I think you did good.
Right. There are also some other cool flavor moments of you like turning into different characters of the party. You actually turns themselves into what they describe as a hot half elf and try to convince Orem to like put down the sword. And Orem's like, hard pass.
He's not amused by it.
Yeah, you actually turns into Imogen at one point when Laudna strikes you and is like, why would you hurt me? So a lot of kind of cool flavor moments like that. And then also Birdie does mention that they're meeting up with someone, a goblin in Bassaros, known by Hondir.
Hondir, yeah.
And basically, once everything's settled and you moves on, Birdie basically says, "Yeah, all right, let's go meet my friend Hondir." So that's for the most part what happened in the first half. I apologize if I missed a key detail, only because there was so much. But yeah,
I don't think you did.
Okay, cool. Well, let's hand it off to Will. You can cover the second half, which has even more crazy stuff.
Yeah, so again, forgive me, a whole bunch of lore here. You know, I'm going to try to be brief, but you know how it goes sometimes. So we pick back up, and Birdie is leading the party to Hondir. And we find out that Hondir is laying low because he recently got into it with some people, and, you know, basically very on edge and secretive. So they make their way to like this storm cistern, and Birdie notices like a mark that denotes like, okay, we're in the right spot. And they head to a nearby shed and then to a trap door inside, inside said shed. After reassuring Hondir that all the footsteps he can clearly hear, because usually it's just Birdie that comes to visit him. So he's like on edge. He's like, I can hear there's a ton of people with you. Like, what's going on?
Right.
But she reassures him, and basically everyone goes inside, but not before Hondir mentions like, hey, I have this whole place rigged to explode, so any funny business and we're all gonna die. So they're like, okay. They make their way down, and this basement is kind of like this little sanctuary. It's stocked with books and food, but also explosives and crossbows rigged like up with ropes pointed at the doorway. Like, this guy's definitely, you know, on edge. So they get down to business, get to talking, and basically we break down with Hondir and Birdie basically explaining what they've been up to. Big lore dumps here. Again, trying to be brief, but it's revealed to the party that there are these things called ley lines and nexus points. Basically these like ley lines of magical energy across the planet, across Exandria. And with these ley lines, you can do very powerful magic, like doors can open to other realms, rituals are more potent, et cetera, et cetera. And if you've seen Calamity, you kind of have a gist of this already.
Yeah, like we know.
Yeah. But he reveals that historically, these ley lines can be rewritten during celestial solstices, and they've been rewritten many times during Exandria's history. And like Blake mentioned, he reveals that the next solstice, this apogee solstice, is about a month away. And so what they've been working on is this device that they can use to hopefully tap into that energy. And this work they're doing puts them at odds with many people. Of course, we have the Unseelie Court, who is after the Callaways. But there's also just political powers and other powers that be that also want to utilize this energy, and so they are basically directly at odds with all of these parties. Hondir reveals that he studied at the EOS seminary, and his work there is what led him to believe that this next nexus of this ley line energy is going to be somewhere in the Hellcatch Valley. As they were researching this, they actually got like shut down. Like some parties that be wanted that research, nixed, and so the researchers had to continue in private. Around about this time, Orym asks about the Grim Verity, and Hondir reveals that he is in fact a member. Orym then tells him about the assassination of the attempted assassination of Keyleth at the Arashari and how those assassins came, and also brings up the Loomis twins and how they were assassinated. And Hondir, reveals that he knew the Loomis twins. They were more recent members of the Grim Verity, and their excitement basically drove them to do things they shouldn't have been doing. They left a trail that ultimately got them killed. And he knows that, or Hondir knows that these Grey assassins have been killing like a ton of the Grim Verity's members. I think he mentions maybe half of them have been assassinated by these people. But he does say that he doesn't think Keyleth is a member of the Grim Verity, so he's unsure of necessarily who these assassins are targeting. So even though half of the Verity has been eliminated, he's not sure of the assassin's ultimate plan here. So anyway, how did the Callaways get in on all of this? And Blake touched on this a little bit, but Birdie basically reveals that, on one of her and Ollie's excursions to Exandria, they gave birth to Fern in the verdant expanse under the light of Ruidus. But something weird happened. Like right when Fern was born, there was a Ruidus flare, as we've come to know them, where the brilliant light filled the sky. This actually obviously caught their attention, so Ollie and Birdie started asking around about Ruidus, finding out about Ruidus-born people and these legends that kind of surround them. As they, were diving more and more into this, Ollie actually began to have some dreams of Ruidus, of the moon following them, and as Blake mentioned, it began to appear in the Fey realm, and Ollie would have these dreams of Ruidus basically destroying the Feywild and everything in its path. So, freaked out by this, they take this information to the Seelie Court, and they're basically just not taken seriously. So they have to continue investigating on their own, and they do find that indeed Ruidus has appeared in the Feywild when it normally does not, but it is concealed. It's not just visible from anywhere in the Feywild, it's only visible if you go into the darker areas. And they come to find out that the Unseelie Court and some Exandrian people are kind of maybe intentionally hiding this, and they're working on some device surrounding all of this. So they talk to the Unseelie Court, and they are basically not taken seriously by them either. So what Birdie and Ollie decide to do is steal a piece of this device that they're working on, with the hopes being that it slows whatever they're trying to do down. And this piece that they stole is the Moontide Crown. And ever since they stole that, that's why they've been on the run. That's why Yu is after them. And now they are trying to build their own device with the help of Ira to ultimately try and hopefully find a way to do something about Ruidus. Imogen asks, wait, so you saw the Unseelie Court people talking with I guess Exandrians is the best way to put it, but not Feywild people. Right. And they come to find out that Odahan Thul was one of these people. And so, Imogen obviously kind of tells how she knows of her, and they're just trying to piece this together. Right. And Hondir reveals another a facet to all this as well. That the Grim Verity had actually discovered texts in Vasselheim, and they stole these texts that dated back to the founding, that had no mention of Ruidus, only Catha. So Ruidus was not always there. These texts also refer to two gods that do not exist, are not mentioned in the current pantheon. And so that's kind of weird. And again, these texts were stolen, so the Verity has angry people at them for that too. So basically Hondir and the Verity at large are basically getting it from all directions, and that's why he's being, so on edge and secretive. Hondir doesn't know who these two deities are. The information has been very kind of safeguarded. He also doesn't know who has the text right now, but he believes they're in Eos. Imogen then brings up how her mother was Ruidus born and asks if Hondir knew her. And he says he does, in fact, know Liliana, as she was part of their studies, the same study that Imogen originally was researching at the start of this campaign in that book that the Loomis twins checked out. And he describes how her mother was a special Ruidus born. Like, there are Ruidus borns, and then there are like special Ruidus borns. And he described how she had these powers similar to the same ones we know Imogen to have. Imogen reveals that she has these same powers, and Hondir basically says, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And they're like, "Why are you sorry?" And he's like, "Because, this means you're definitely connected to everything that's happening and what's coming." So he basically views it as a very bad thing.
Right.
They then kind of the party discusses their ire for Ira, and like they're just like, "How could you work with this guy? He's a bad dude, he's probably going to turn on you." And Birdie's like, we just didn't really have a choice. He was the only one that, like, one, believed us, and two, had like the knowledge and willingness to help. They then kind of talk about this time discrepancy of the 6 years and 90 years. And Birdie is like, "Yeah, I mean, Mori is like the lord of her domain, and it's definitely within her power to have kind of dilated the time that way. Many people know better than to walk into her domain." And so she believes that Mori had something to do with that. Then they're like, "Okay, well, what's next?" And they're like, "We should go to the Callaway hideout. We want to take a look at this machine you and Ira are building. So let's take the crawlers to get there a little bit faster." So boom, we need to head back to Joe's to see if our crawler is repaired. So they do that. Meanwhile, Birdie and Hondir are like gathering their things up because he's like, "I got to get out of here. It's too hot." Not hot as in like temperature, but like too many people are after him. So they decide to meet back at Tal'Dorei, Taste of Tal'Dorei, once they get the crawler back. They do that, kind of figure out who's going to ride with who, and then they set off. But then they quickly remember, "Oh crap, we forgot Hondir." So they turn around, go back and get Hondir, and then go back, and that's where the episode ends. Ooh.
That was episode 29. What happened? Again, check out the link below if you're just on the recap. A lot to talk about, and check out our full discussion, and let us know your thoughts in the comments as well. So
yeah, please do. And a little cliffhanger for anyone watching this recap video: Blake, I actually got some juicy lore to share as well. So
you do?
That's where I'm going to cut off the recap, so make people, have a little cliffhanger. But yeah,
should have been a thumbnail of you going, "Who?" I mean, going, "Huh?"
That could be our thumbnail today.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I do.
Crazy episode.
So much information, man. I had to go back and watch a few of those sections a couple times.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think Orem at some point was like, "This is so much." Like, yeah, there were a ton of breadcrumbs. Not even, I mean, full on loaves of bread.
Yeah.
I don't know if that works either, but
I like it.
A lot of stuff, man. I didn't even know where to start, by the way. We have a lot to parse through today. So
yeah, I mean, I guess really quickly, I think this, maybe we shouldn't even have this section anymore, but what'd you think about it? I'll go ahead and answer really quick.
Yeah, thumbs
Loved
up.
it. I mean, we kind of mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we love the world building, we love the lore. So especially after a 2-week break, this was, I love this episode.
Yeah, and we talked about, like, I didn't know how they were going to handle like what's going to happen. And we had a lot of ideas, and I was pretty satisfied with how everything played out. For me, if I'm a player, it feels tidy to me. So I do like how everything played out. But dude, like having seen Calamity, like the implications of this
Apogee
apogee
solstice time.
solstice, I'm just like, bro. We've said it on the podcast. I think a lot of people have like theorized that is what this upcoming solstice is going to be. It was nice to get confirmation, and it's nice to get a little tie-in from Calamity.
Yeah, which I think it goes to show they know what they're doing. Like it's cool to know that they're like that deep with the plotting, for lack of a better word. I'm sure that when they realized they were going to do Calamity, they were like, man, it'd be so cool with. We kind of had this tease of an Apogee Solstice story, and that's like kind of leading to a similar occurrence in C3.
Right.
But yeah, real quick on because I forgot how we did speculate what we thought was going to happen. At the end of 2 weeks ago now, when you grabbed Burn and Ferdy, we were like, is it going to be combat? Is she going to teleport out? I actually thought it was a really cool. I don't know if subversion is the right word, but subversion of at least my expectations that you was just like the chill one and like I'm not attacking anybody.
Right.
I thought that was a really kind of cool angle to take at it, and just kind of shows the gray, not black and white, of like, oh, Birdie's the good guy, use the bad guy. So
yeah, and it definitely didn't play out that way. You're right.
Right.
I mean, I agree completely. It was like a nice, and again, Imogen or whoever it was that was like, hey, you're the one, basically like, hey, you're the one working with the dude who killed a bunch of kids. So like,
yeah,
we don't know about you. So yeah, I did like how it wasn't like overtly like, use the bad person now, but instead it was like, yeah, like what does this look like now? So
yeah. And that whisper she got from Matt, it was just a roller coaster. One, it was just like so long, but just like watching her face as he was telling her stuff was hilarious.
Yeah, I was in my head, I was like playing out like it being like 5 minutes long. Everyone else being like, and Sam's like doing like, and also on D&D Beyond, you can. It's like, have you seen this feature? But yeah, no, the whisper was really great. Again, I don't know where to start. I mean, I have so many like random thoughts. Speaking of subversion, like I love that Fern was revealed to be Ruidium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, okay. I guess let's just start with Fern and stuff. But actually, since we were talking about the Apogee Solstice really quick, I don't have the dates in front of me, but it's roughly like 843, 846 PD is like the year, which that dating started basically after the Calamity, because it's post Divergence.
Post Divergence, yeah.
Which, if I think apogees are about 120 years apart, so that checks out, because I'm sure that the PD dating didn't happen day one after Asmodeus pops out. So 843 or whatever it is just like a couple years either direction off the 7th 120 year mark, for what we know to be between apogee solstices.
Not to get too in the weeds, but like the I can't do the right phrasing, like the mythic implication of the number 7, like it has obviously like there's a lot of like biblical ideology around the number 7. And so I don't know if Matt, I mean, we just said like this has all been intentionally curated. The fact that it's the 7th one for me even makes it like, we already know the apogee solstice is a humongous event that happens, but the fact that it's the 7th one, I'm kind of like, ooh, maybe there's like an apogee plus solstice.
Oh yeah. like okay, yeah, I'm with you.
So I don't know.
Yeah, so I like that actually. Like an even more powerful one. And speaking of 7, it would go ahead.
I mean, I was just gonna say, I keep wanting to call him Hondir, by the way, but him mentioning that the ley lines have been rewritten several times.
Yeah,
I'm just curious what other major, we don't have no idea, but I'm just curious like what other major factions have manipulated the ley lines for their own benefit in the last 800 years.
Right, me too.
So I mean, like maybe like the founding of certain major empires has been related to it. Like I know it's not like, it's not like going back to the future and like, you know the winning lottery numbers, but if there's a way to manipulate ley lines to somehow, take power or consolidate power, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, well, we
we
know that that's what Vecna was trying to do. It wasn't an apogee solstice; it was just like a normal one. But he was using that energy to try to ascend to godhood. So, um, yeah, I don't know if the process of that would have rewritten the ley lines or not. But um, it could have been a number of things beyond just like the grand scale of what we know they were trying to accomplish at Calamity.
right,
Um,
right.
so yeah, I'm curious
What,
too.
what were you gonna say though before I jumped
Oh, I
in?
was just gonna say, speaking of seven, it's also interesting because we know that 7 years ago is when Ruidus started showing up in the Fey realm, which
Yeah,
when Fern was born. Which, what's interesting is 7 years ago is when campaign 2 ended, and there were some certain things that kind of happened at like the climactic event of that campaign that aren't like, oh, that's definitely aligned here, but it could be. Um, without
interesting.
without getting too spoilery, at least now, if it seems like it's gonna be maybe more relevant, maybe we'll dive into it. At this point, I
Sure.
don't. It's just like a pipe kind of connection, so I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil it for anybody. But yeah, it's just a coincidental timing that's kind of when the events of campaign 2, the end of campaign 2 were happening, is tied to when Ruidus is starting to appear in the Fey realm.
Hmm.
So more of just another kind of weird number 7 coincidence I wanted to bring up.
Yeah. Did the adventures of campaign 2 doom our world in some way? That's what I'm
I
wondering.
mean, they, again, I don't want to get spoilery with it, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I also kind of wonder the implications. It sounds like not just the Unseelie Court or the Paragon's Call, but presumably, whoever's controlling the Gray Assassins and what else other factions there are, like, whoever shut down the study in EOS, which these could all be linked in some way, but
Right.
presumably if there are a number of factions who are aware of the massive implications of this upcoming solstice, I also kind of wonder, surely, like, aren't like the campaign 1 heroes like pretty worldwide, like well known, like massive celebrities, like in the hero space? Like, are they gonna pop up again? Like, it
I
seems like kind of a
mean,
big deal.
I agree. These solstices weren't like a big thing ever until, I mean, like I said, Vecna, we know Vecna to have, like, that's what he was using, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like a big thing that was ever brought up before Calamity, really. So it's not as if like specifically the characters from campaign 1 realize necessarily that it's about to be an apogee solstice and things might go down. Like that might be just
Right.
something they're not aware of. Um, but yeah, for to our knowledge, they're all still alive and kicking. Keyless especially, which she's already been brought up a bunch this campaign, but
Yeah.
she, as a high level druid, ages very slowly. So like she basically is the exact same as when we last left her, whereas other
Mhm.
ones might be kind of old and out of their
Yeah.
prime, let's say. But yeah, I mean, I think it's. I mean, it seems like we're definitely at least going to have an interaction with Keyleth at some point. I
Mhm.
mean, just because of Aurum, if nothing
It
else.
it that's kind of what I'm getting at. It kind of feels that way. I mean, she's definitely the easiest tie-in, I guess. And I even wonder, like, we might even see like a Sean Gilmore. I mean,
That'd be cool. I mean,
and
we
I'm
saw him in
even
EXU.
well, I'm actually tying it back to that. The realization of the apogee solstice, like we've and if apologies guys if you've only been watching campaign 3, there have been breadcrumbs that have happened in EXU that have we've talked about, like, is it an apogee solstice? Is something big happening? Because there's been past characters who've been involved with other events worldwide in Exandria, well, in Taldore, which, Will, we talked about, oh man, what's it called? Like the prophet in the Tetrarch in,
Neardopak.
thank you, Niralpak, who basically is like, there's a bad omen with Ruidus. Like there is, and I can't remember if they worshipped Ruidus. Well, they had an appreciation, I guess, for the Katha and Ruidus. But something's coming. We also had the Ono Plateau,
Yeah.
with the fire. I almost said infernal. It wasn't infernal. It was just a fiery sigil. And all of these comments of like something's coming, something's happening, something's pressing through. Dude, these things are all feeling like it's coming to a head and neat and tidy, you know, and in as neat a tidy way as you can. But since Sean Gilmore was involved in the EXU adventure,
Yeah.
it does make me want. He's clearly somehow aware of things that are happening. I just wouldn't be surprised to see him.
Yeah, and he was taking initiative to investigate these things, which is
Right.
what, like, if you didn't watch EXU, he basically sent the party of EXU on this mission to figure out more about what was going on here. So clearly he is interested, and we don't know how those threads have played out, but seemingly, that's not something he's just going to be like, oh, never mind, So I'm sure that's a great candidate for maybe somebody we pop up, because maybe it's somebody that's also trying to piece this together right now. But on the subject of like Vox Machina, I think while we may see Keyleth, maybe we'll see, if we go to Whitestone, maybe we'll see some of them. I do know that Matt doesn't ever, he wouldn't ever want, it's not as if Vox Machina is going to come in and save the day. Because that would rob
of, not their story.
Yeah. So I think we may see them, but it's not going to be that type of situation where it's like, oh, we got to go recruit all the members of Vox Machina to take on the big bad,
And then, like Sam Riegel's talking like, are you F.C.G right now or Scanlan?
Yeah.
So, no, yeah, I agree. I mean, even kind of, I don't know if it was a joke or not, but you said yeah, maybe we go to Whitestone, but it feels like this story. I mean, we know we had the breadcrumb that the Apogee Solstice is this nexus point is focused in Marquette, which for our listeners, when the Apogee Solstice happens, this is the place where I guess that energy is at its strongest. And maybe that's how he articulated it
or something.
Yeah. So that's in Marquette. They're here. So we at least know for the next month, presumably, they're going to, be focused here. Here's something I will say. I was thinking about what is now going to happen from now till a month from now. Two questions. One, how quickly do you anticipate that time passing in real life, like game time? Could this be like the climax, 100 episodes from now, or are we talking maybe 20 episodes from now? And two, these other story threads, how well do you see the party actually pulling and following those, knowing how seemingly massive the implication of this plot thread is?
Yeah, so I'll take those in order here. So the first one of how long in real time do I think until this month in game time happens? It's hard to say. I don't think the month from now is going to be the climax of the campaign. I think it's far too soon for that to be happening. But that being said, it might be a couple months in real world time until that month passes. There's this thing in campaign 2 called Traveler Con, and it kind of became a little bit of a meme because it was it's in 2 weeks, and then 4 Critical Role episodes later it's yeah, it's in 14 days. And so it might end up being something like that a little bit, but I think that it won't be too long till we get there. So maybe a month or two in, so 8 episodes worth maybe ish. But I do think still that this, whatever Ruidus represents, I feel that probably is still in some form or fashion connected to what the big bad of this campaign may be. But just the solstice itself, I don't think is going to be when that happens. Maybe it's just the first domino that falls that leads to something later. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say when the month will actually come.
Go ahead, by the way. I didn't mean to jump in.
No, I mean, I was pretty much done. The only other thing I was going to say is that depending on how much travel they do, I feel that kind of depends on how fast it goes. Because if they're not actually traveling anywhere, then time kind of slows down a lot, because it's well, what are we doing today in this city that we're going to be in? But if it's hey, let's go to Eos, well, it takes a week to get there, then, boom.
So it's in my campaign that I'm playing with some friends, It's been like 8 weeks, and someone had the realization like, this is all still the same day from like 2 months ago.
That's hilarious.
So anyway, they're like, let us sleep, please. I'm like, nope. Yeah, I mean, you saw the party kind of do it. It's kind of hard. I guess I don't see the party being like, let's go see if we can find Dancer. Like, I think that will happen naturally. It feels like now there is a level of prioritization, whereas previously it was like, sure, let's go do this. Yeah, let's go do this heist at the, what's it called? The Astani Manor. That's not right. Hydroga's estate.
The Twilight Museum, I think, or something.
Yeah,
like
right. It's like, yeah, let's go do this. Like, and I don't think the party was like aimless, like, because I felt a sense of direction watching sort of the Dressar arc, if I can call it that. But I just have a hard time envisioning like, hey, Ashton, let's go check out the Greymore estate.
There wasn't like this looming pressure.
Right. And so you're even sort of seeing that though, where the party was like, yeah, let's go. I mean, because think about the implications of this next episode. They're going to Birdie and Ollie's hideout, where Ira the Nightmare King is also. Are we going to get a round 2 here? But the point that I was getting at though was they're all getting ready to leave, and they're like, "Wait, aren't we supposed to be at the Paragon's call today?"
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh yeah, that was today, wasn't it?" And they're like, "Well, we'll do both. We'll report by evening." And I'm like, "Okay, like is this really gonna be as neat and tidy as you think?" But even like this major plot thread of Armand Treshy in the player's mind kind of fell to the backdrop of like, oh yeah, that was today, wasn't it? So
yeah.
I'm really curious to see like what transpires over this next month.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that point, I think that we maybe see a couple of smaller threads followed because they're gonna need to kill a month, I don't think they're gonna just stay with the Callaways and Ira for this next month, like helping them work on that machine or whatever. So they might be like,
they're all roommates.
Yeah. It's like a sitcom.
Ira, come on. Yeah.
So I think maybe they are like, let's go, dancers in the area, maybe let's explore that. Yeah. And so maybe they explore a couple of things, and then we're with the ID being we got to be back here in a month to see what happens here.
Well, here's what's interesting. The airships due back in Dressar in sub 1 month's time.
Right.
And they also wanted to go to EOS.
Right, so, which I feel like that might be one of the next things they do now that they know these texts are maybe there, and that might be like the next puzzle piece to help them figure out what's going on with all of this as well.
Yeah. It almost makes me wonder if Armand Treshy is going to get wrapped up maybe even by this next episode or the episode after. Because think about this. Armand Treshy is the reason they went to Bosras and the reason they got engaged with the Paragon's Call, which the Paragon's Call is involved in this Moontide Crown, Ruidus thing. So the from like a plot device standpoint, Armand Treshy is sort of a side point now. And so I kind of wonder if that'll get wrapped up even because he's not really the focus anymore. Now it's the Paragon's Call, and like why are they meeting with the Unseelie Court? What's going on here?
Right. Yeah, I'm interested to see. I mean, we'll see if they even make it back to the Paragon's Call tonight or whatever after they go visit the Callaways. But if they do, they're kind of on like good terms with them. So I don't know what their plan's going to be. Like, are they still just going to try to like snatch Armand and just run during this meeting, or are they like, I don't know. But it would be interesting if they do decide to go to EOS. We know they got to call the airship with a little bit of advance. So if they're like, okay, we're going to snatch Treshy, get on the boat, we'll go to EOS, like maybe they can take him back to Dressar,
right?
And maybe they'll just try to like tie that off that way, like just do it whilst they're kind of accomplishing other things. But yeah, I don't know. I really am curious for how this Paragon's Call stuff is going to go, since they're not allies. It's not the right word, but like they're like under the pretense of joining them, So I feel like it's no longer a smash and grab necessarily, but maybe it still will be.
For how bad the smash and grab plan was, it's even worse now, knowing the implication of like how, like the Paragon's Call, we kind of presume them to be like these greasy like mercenaries who were just like had some aspirations for some bigger plans, like becoming like sort of like the central like military guard of Dressar. And clearly they're involved in much larger schemes. It almost feels like Dressar was kind of like a side project. So yeah, I think they really can't risk it now. I think probably what's going to happen is they're going to meet with Birdie and Ollie and Ira. And it's gonna be like an everyone hates Ira kind of situation where they're just like, we just don't like you. But they don't kill him or attack him. And basically it's like, yeah, we need more information. That's the best way to get more information. The Paragon's call. We know they're involved in this. Now let's go continue our infiltration, so to speak. But then again, maybe that all blows up once they see Armand Tresci. So I don't know.
Because I mean, he at least some of them is going to recognize them and probably sound some alarm bells, So yeah, I'm very interested to see how they tackle that. Try not to jump all over here, but with the Ira thing, that's interesting. I really like. Now we know why a few months back or whatever, he spared them, which is a bit. We were wondering, like, oh, Matt was just going. Like some people were like, Matt's just going easy on them, or this or that. No, of course there was a reason, and now we know why. Like he literally was working with her parents. So when he's like, "Oh, you're Calloway," like, oh, okay, well, probably shouldn't kill you. So I like that we got some closure there. And yeah, I don't think it's going to come to blows because I think that there's been this situation established that I think they at least will respect for the time being. But I am interested to see the dynamic there of like.
Right.
Because I'm sure they're going to ask him, like, what were you doing for Armand? What were those kids for? Like, what's going on? So I'm interested to see those answers there. But yeah, as far as the Paragon's call, so we know Odahan is the leader, and we know that she's in Imogen's dream and was working with the Unseelie Court. So clearly she's deep in whatever's going on there. And as seemingly orchestrating the call to her whims to accomplish what she needs to. I'm just so curious about, and this, my little Lord thing that I teased is the cliffhanger. Maybe this is a good time to get into it. I'm not sure.
Sure.
But what is going on with these Ruidus people, and to tie Odahan and Ira together a little bit. We know that she was like a war hero, right? In the Apex War. Not hero is not the right word, but like this legendary figure in the war.
Right.
Birdie mentioned that Ira was also in the Apex War and was very like, again, not hero, but like, did stuff, I guess. And then he's been kind of like listless ever since and kind of directionless.
Right.
So I wonder if they knew each other or anything, or maybe that's kind of both why they're all like pulling these machinations on their own ends, is maybe they both found something out during the Apex War or something. Because we know that Ira, for whatever reason, is one of the only people that believes the Callaways.
Right.
So maybe he and Odahan both found something out about Ruidus or something during the Apex War for whatever reason.
I love that insight. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Both of them being exposed to something that changed them, and definitely seemingly connected to Ruidus, which it'd be interesting how much Ruidus was involved in the Apex War. Involves the wrong word, I guess, but I'm curious about like the connection there, because we know Odahan disappeared at some point, like towards the end of the war, and then came back. So what happened there? What's going on there? Ruidus has obviously been around longer than the Apex War, but
we wasn't always around.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love the detail that you pointed out in Calamity of Brennan Lee Mulligan. He was describing the scenery and said, you see the light of the moon, basically, or something to that effect. And you pointed out, interesting that he didn't say the light of the two moons.
Yeah.
So possibly wasn't even a Ruidus during the time of the Calamity either. And if I can just take this even farther, we know there's two deities mentioned in the founding texts in Vasselheim that are no longer mentioned at all.
Yeah.
Emperor Roshan, Empress Kamort, maybe the two, not deities,
Primordials.
but two primordials sent away at the end of Calamity. Spoilers, by the way. So we know that Roshan and Kamort, the primordials of earth and fire. We know that the Ono Plateau, earth and fire, the plateau earth, fiery ashen sigils. Ruidus is red. Fire is red. Ruidus is a planet. The earth is a planet. Bro, I'm just saying, it definitely seems like it's the two of them returning in some way. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I had that instinct as well. I don't think it's the case anymore because of what I've found out.
Son of a bitch. Well,
but no,
here's
yeah.
Before you say anything, hang on.
Yeah.
Just joking. I don't think it's that.
Right. No, but I think I texted you. We had that same idea. But speaking of the Ono Plateau, I wonder if that is a nexus point. I don't know if they're that overt, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking back at my texts. The other thing that made me wonder was the one thing I did wonder about was surely there wasn't an ascension like the Raven Queen that happened prior to her with two other deities, right?
I don't know. Yeah, but if they were forgotten, so it would be they were the two that were replaced, is what you're saying?
I'm just wondering if it's happened before and they were replaced, because we know that when the Matron of Ravens ascended, the previous deity's name was struck from all. Yeah, exactly. Which I guess it wouldn't make sense then that there would be these names in these texts, but it is interesting that they haven't been mentioned anywhere since.
Yeah. All right, so nuzzle up by your closest fire because it's about to be story time with Will.
Okay.
This was all. So just disclaimer: this is spoilery because this is from a Critical Role source book, the Netherdeep, which I have not read, which is why.
Bro, this source book keeps coming up.
I know we need to read it.
We need to read this.
I'm almost.
Also,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say also. One of the main Ruidus born who was gifted boons during Elixion.
Yeah, he's coming up
too. Who
was
known as the pair. Okay, sorry. All right.
No,
I
you're good.
Coffee. You're good. We need to read this book. This is apparently a really important source book.
Yeah, we do. I'm almost through Tal'Dorei Reborn, and when I finish that, I'm gonna get that one. But so spoilers, because I guess I can't say with complete certainty that just because this is what it says in the book that's what it's going to be for campaign 3, but I'm pretty sure it is, because I think the books are canon to the live stream, but some stuff is left ambiguous in the books so that people playing their home games can make what they want out of it, right? But I'm pretty sure the factual things presented about Exandria are true for the live stream. So with that being said, spoilers, if you want these things to potentially come up in the campaign itself and you don't want it to be revealed here, get out. So this is from, again, the I think this is the Rise of the Netherdeep. I forget the exact name of the book, but it's the source book about the Netherdeep, the most recent one that just came out. So I'm going to just be reading directly from that. So during the founding, a time when the gods still walked the face of Exandria, the world's divine creators discovered an unidentifiable power seeping through the fabric of reality. Legends assert that this alien influence was a threat to all life on Exandria, and the gods banded together to banish it. This cancerous incursion of dark power is said to have crystallized into Ruidus, the small vermilion moon that hangs in the sky along with Catha, the world's natural moon. The gods agreed to create a tale about Ruidus to conceal its alien origin from the mortals of the world, informing them that it was a moon of ill omen and its magical influence was always to be avoided. This tale concocted by the gods was not a lie, for Ruidus's alien magic twists the fate of those who are born or embark on ventures while bathed in its vermilion light. Some eons later, a schism rocked the pantheon of Exandria, splitting the divine beings into betrayer gods and prime deities. The betrayer gods strove to ruin and dominate the world, and they battled the prime deities in a war called the Calamity. Near the beginning of this war, a boy named Elixian was born in the lands of Wildmount, at the seat of the betrayer god's power, beneath the full light of Ruidus. He was said to be cursed from birth and was viewed by suspicion from all around him except his parents. As a young man, he sought to defy his fate and distinguish himself on the field of battle. Elixian found himself embroiled in the most vicious battles of the war. He fought selflessly and begged the prime deities to help him protect the innocent people caught up in the war. Thrice he asked, and thrice they answered, granting him greater and greater power. He was more than a champion of the gods. He had become the Apotheon, a noble warrior so suffused with divine energy that he was halfway to godhood himself. In those times, he wore a god-gifted amulet known as the Jewel of the Three Prayers, as a symbol of his divine covenant. Eventually, the war brought the Apotheon to the great jungle city now known as Kael Moro, a utopian domain of elves and orcs. The orcs were the first generation of their kind, who had been transformed by the spilled blood of Grumpsh the Ruiner. Might be mispronouncing that name. Although fear had reigned for a short time after they transformed, the two peoples soon realized they were still kin. The city was the jewel of the lush and verdant continent of Marquette, and its people gave thanks daily to Corlon the Archheart for their protection. The Ruiner despised the Archheart and swore to annihilate Kael Moro and all of Marquette with a single stroke of his spear. He strode into the center of the city, smiting all who dare raise a blade against him, and when he reached the city's heart, Gramash raised his spear to strike the earth with cataclysmic force, but his blow was intercepted by the Apotheon at the last possible second. The Apotheon's intervention kept Grummish from annihilating all life on Marquette, but the force of his spear thrust still brought the lands of Marquette to ruin. Fire raged all across the lush jungle, turning verdant beauty into blasted desert, and Kael Moro was shunted deep into the earth. Towers toppled, stone crumbled, and all trace of the great civilization was wiped from the face of Exandria. In that moment of destruction and death, the Apotheon's connection to Ruidus flared to life. A rift was torn between worlds, in which alien energy from an unknown realm and the waters of Kael Moro's oasis mingled to produce a lightless realm of water and strange magic. There, in what came to be known as the Netherdeep, the Apotheon has been trapped for untold ages, consumed with sadness, furious over his defeat, and yearning for freedom. In time, the immortal Apotheon fell into a long and troubled slumber. In his dreams, the barren caverns of the Netherdeep began to shift. His memories filled the darkness, and a cocoon of melancholy formed around his body. From the heart of despair emerged a crimson element that embodied the Apotheon's power. It spread, growing and crystallizing as it moved, until all of the Netherdeep was suffused with its power. Centuries have passed since the Calamity, and life has returned to the desert of Marquette. A grand city called Hondir has now been built on the desert oasis. Little did its founders know that the water of their oasis originated from the Netherdeep, and that beneath this new desert metropolis was an underwater cavern holding the ruined city of Kael Moro. A new form of conflict entered the story when the Allegiance of Allsight, an influential group of academics in Hondir, discovered a strange mineral in the sunken ruins beneath the city. This substance, a slick, oily stone veined with blood-like streaks, possessed unknown magical properties. The Allegiance tried to keep it a secret, but news soon attracted the attention of a rival faction. The Consortium of the Vermilion Dream, a secret occult society obsessed with the magic of the moon of ill omen, Ruidus, heard a rumor about the discovery of this mineral. Consortium agents broke into the Allegiance of Allsight's excavation site in Kael Moro and learned about the discovery firsthand. They dubbed the mineral Ruidium because its red veins and mysteriousness reminded them of Ruidus. They continued sneaking into the excavation, hunting further and further, and discovered a planar rift within the ruins. One of their agents succeeded in getting inside, and when he returned, she claimed that she had entered a dark underwater realm where the walls themselves were veined with Ruidium. She managed to recover a sample, but escaped before the water's intense pressure crushed her. When that sample of Ruidium was torn from the Netherdeep, the shock of the extraction roused the dormant Apotheon from his slumber. All at once, centuries of accumulated grief crashed down upon him, and the Netherdeep roared with the strength of his tempestuous emotions. The power that flows from the Apotheon is no longer truly his own. Try as he might to hang on to the memory of the hero he once was, he is driven entirely by his tortured emotions. Throughout centuries of isolation, the dormant, dreaming Elixian had hoped for someone to find and rescue him, but when mortals discovered him, they seemed interested in only stealing his power for themselves. The furious Apotheon tapped into the alien nature of the Netherdeep to cause Ruidium to slowly corrupt all who hold it. Elixian beseeched the three gods he had prayed to in ancient times, Saheen the Moonweaver, Avandra the Changebringer, and Corlon the Archheart, to send heroes to save him. Despite being sealed behind the divine gate, the gods are able to propel the Jewel of Three Prayers to a site where Elixion once beseeched the Moonweaver for aid long ago. The jewel materialized within a sunken temple in the Emerald Gulch near Jigao, and the gods hoped that a good-hearted band of heroes would find it, learn the Apotheon's plight, and rescue their tortured champion. The Jewel of Three Prayers is currently dormant, waiting to be awakened by a determined hero.
Bro, what the heck, dude? Oh my gosh.
Right?
Bro. Dude, I feel like we just got like the cheat code for like the rest of campaign 3. Like,
right?
Oh my gosh.
Como in the Discord pointed this out because we were talking about just the episode, and he was like, yeah, Netherdeep, they talk a lot about Elixion. And I was like, what? Tell me more. And so he shared these pages from Netherdeep with me. So shout out to Como for bringing this to our attention. But yeah, what the heck, man? That's a lot of answers that we've just been speculating about.
Help me parse this all back through, okay?
Yeah, so that was a lot. Sorry for the long monologue.
So the Apotheon, Elixion,
yeah.
He saves Marquette in general, although Kael
Morrow, yeah.
Morrow
plummeted to the earth.
I'm thinking like Witcher city names.
Yeah.
Gets like plummeted beneath the earth, and the strength of it is so huge it creates like another plane.
Because of Elixion's Ruidus-born connection, like that energy, the spear, combination of all that madness basically created the Netherdeep, which is like this new realm, and there's a portal now beneath somewhere in the ruins of Cael Morrow, which sits underneath Ank'Harel, which is like the massive city in Marquette. But yeah.
And what's in the water of the oasis is
there's Ruidium.
Ruidium,
yeah.
And the Ruidium is like the mineral that's developed around the portal, even in that other realm, that is basically the Apotheon. As he's dreaming, he's transforming the environment into very sad stone.
Yeah, basically.
He's depressed that he's been alone for several hundred years now.
Yeah, and apparently
probably maybe gone crazy from getting hit with the spear really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and so Ruidus is an alien energy that was seeping through the fabric of reality that the gods banished, and it crystallized into Ruidus.
Yeah.
Huh? And this, I guess that happened before the schism, it said. So that was before there were betrayers and prime deities. That was just when all the gods banded together to accomplish that.
Yeah, the whole Roshan Kamort, that was so stupid.
I was with you though. So,
wow.
But yeah, and which is just interesting on like a power level ladder here, because that means like, so we know the Luxon, which I don't want to get all into that right now, but we've talked about it a bit, was like, this entity that seemingly predates the gods.
Right.
And then the gods came to the world, and then everything else we know happens. But now we know there's this other entity that is not the Luxon, that is not the gods. So is this other alien, let's just call it Ruidus for the sake of being simple here. Is Ruidus like on the same level as the Luxon? Or like, what's going on? Who is this alien energy? And there's no mention of the two deities in what I just read. There's no mention of the two deities that gives an answer to what happened to them. But like, what happened to them? Were they like, did they summon this alien energy, and so they were like banished as a result or something? Or I don't know.
Yeah,
just spitballing here.
No, this is really interesting. And they described it as like a cancerous energy, like a dark energy, or
so
they banished it, or
what it says is legends assert that this alien influence was a threat to all life on Exandria, and the gods banded together to banish it. So I guess a key phrase there, this says legends assert. So we don't, that necessarily is not like truth.
And then was there something about the Ruidium being corrupting, or did I make that up?
Yeah, there was. The furious Apotheon tapped into the alien nature of the Netherdeep, aka the alien nature of Ruidus, basically, to cause Ruidium to slowly corrupt all who hold it.
Yeah.
I think because he was pissed that they were just stealing that instead of, helping him or whatever.
So maybe Imogen's dream with Adahan and all the other people, maybe these are all people who've been corrupted. Maybe it's not Ruidus born individuals. Maybe it's people who've been corrupted. Or maybe it's both. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it is, because I mean they're kind of one and the same, right? Because Elixion was Ruidus born. So even though he was like a war hero, perhaps he was still being used by Ruidus for, whatever reason.
And if there's like radium in the water, like could there be citizens of Ahn'Qorell who are being unknowingly corrupted?
I guess potentially, right?
Hmm.
And it's just also let me see if I can find the exact phrase. Yeah. This tale concocted by the gods was not a lie, for Ruidus's alien magic twists the fate of those who are born or embark on ventures while in its light. So, not that all Ruidus-born people are evil. I mean, clearly we have Elixion as the perfect example of like a paragon of good, but people born under Ruidus's light are being, for lack of a better word, like manipulated by it. So, we know Fern is. It seems like Imogen probably is. Is Adahan and these people, are they all agents of Ruidus that the end game is to get this banished evil back into the world?
Right.
So many questions. And we know that Ollie had these visions, and that didn't I think one of them, I didn't mention this in the recap, but I feel like he said Fern was at the center of it. Like the Ruidus, was in the Feywild and was destroying everything in its path, and Fern, you were in the center of it.
Yeah, there was something like that for sure. Yeah, because it was like at least an implication of like why they were so interested was knowing that Fern was involved in some way.
So committed. Is Fern like the next Elixion level Ruidus-born person that is gonna like, maybe she can stop it, like maybe that's the point of the story, is that she like doesn't do it, but like is she the linchpin and like the getting this back? Because we tie back to this a lot recently, but back to EXU and Dark Fern, like is that maybe a vision of what she could become if she like fully is corrupted or something?
Well, so now I'm wondering, what's the Unseelie Court and the Paragon's Call wanting to do with Ruidus? I mean, if the Paragon's Call is aptly named after Elixion, have they been corrupted by the Ruidus energy and like they're, and it wasn't it said that Elixion had woken up or something to that effect?
Yeah, I think he's still trapped, but I guess whenever that first piece of Ruidium was stolen, it said it woke him from his slumber, but he seems still trapped.
Yeah, so are they operating on, I mean, it sounds like he's pretty evil at this point. Like
I would agree, but the end of it, which again maybe just because it's a source book, because that's clearly like setting up a plot hook of like get your band of adventurers to go find the Jewel of Three Prayers and rescue Elixion. Like that's how it's presented essentially. So it at least gives the hope of a redemption, because it's like his plight, like maybe you guys can go find that thing and help him. But at least for now, it does seem like he's kind of been driven mad, and I don't know. Like it's a lot to unpack.
Bro, the stakes just got, real big.
Right?
Wow, this is crazy. Yeah, what a lore drop. Seriously. Can't believe they published it. Yeah, I don't know. It almost feels like the party would be heading to Ahn'Qorell then at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, headed to the Netherdeep potentially at some point.
Which are there? Does the source book have like modules in it, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. So like are there? I'm just wondering like what like bad guys are mentioned in the modules, that if any of them tie into our current campaign.
Right. So
I just need to order this book and just pour through it.
Right. Yeah. So I don't have it either. Like I said, Como just kind of sent me basically the pages I read aloud are what he sent me. So
I want to get the rest of that book. Like we spend hours talking about Critical Role every week, and we're like, yeah, do you have that book? We should probably get that.
Listen, I have literally all the other ones.
Can one of our viewers give us? Yeah. What's a D20 again? Is that? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, shout out to Como then. I mean, that's a pretty amazing insight. And definitely feels like, I mean, that is the most meaningful theory that I've heard so far at this point in the campaign. So yeah, that's really interesting for sure.
Yeah, and so I'm just, real. Again, not that Rudis-born people are evil, because they're not inherently, but it does seem like it is an omen. Like, it is ultimately probably not a good thing to be Rudis-born, because it means you're being manipulated by this alien energy to some extent.
But like,
Which
wasn't it? I mean, yes and no, right? Because like, aren't like they're like super famous people, like noble heroes, so to speak, who were Rudis born? Like I know there is an ill omen there. Wasn't it also mentioned the matron of ravens was Rudis born? So did this character lead to the ascension to try to fracture the deities and maybe I mean, I don't know.
maybe, I
If
mean,
that's
right?
eventually led to the divine gate, that would then keep them
Keep
from
them away,
directly involved. And oh my gosh, we just solved it. Pepe
right?
Sylvia.
Like,
I
yeah,
don't know.
even though they could maybe be good people, maybe they were still unknowingly setting
Yeah.
dominoes in order that Ruidus ultimately needed to finally come back. I don't know, it's crazy. So we know for a fact Fern is.
Right.
Imogen has to be.
Seems that way.
We don't have
Right.
confirmation, but she has to be, especially after we know her mother was, and just like Hondir said, like she was a particularly gifted one, and we know Imogen to have those same gifts. So, also she's got those lightning bolt kind of scars up her arm. You know what I'm talking
Right. Right.
about? I forgot to mention this. Como also. So there was a bit of a discussion happening. I won't get into the whole weeds of that. But I originally was asking, I wonder if the Null Rock is Ruidium, and he was saying that he
great
didn't think
insight.
so because it's purple and Ruidium is
Right.
red.
But maybe its creation is tied to Ruidium in some way.
Yeah, possibly, because we also know that it corrupts, just like we know Ruidium too. Right. But that led us down a different path, which eventually got him to show me another page, which I don't have in front of me right now. But it basically explains like there's a corruption table level for Ruidium, like mechanically explaining like if you're this involved with Ruidium, you're going to have a point of exhaustion, and then level 2, level 3, yada yada yada. And one of the first signs are like red streaks on your body. So to me, I was like, that sounds like what Imogen has on her arms. Now again, Imogen's are purple, so it
doesn't
may
she have
not
pink
be.
hair?
I think she has purple hair. So,
dude, what if she was like trying to not make it weird, but like conceived like on a bed of Ruidium or something? I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. It's like really interesting, or I wonder if like. So if Ruidium, the mineral, not getting too sciencey, like the mineral side of Ruidium can like seep into water and like be in water. Like, did she grow up on a farm where their well water was streaked with Ruidium? I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting to try to parse that through.
We know where she was from, but I can't remember now. Do you remember?
It's in Marquette.
It's in Marquette. So I mean, who knows? And her mom was too. So clearly, it's something that's been around. Yeah. I don't know.
So, and also Ruidus isn't like getting closer, right?
Not to our knowledge. I mean, it has those flares, which we still don't really understand, but
right. But it's not like
Majora's
Mask. Like every year, this thing really does get bigger.
Yeah. Somebody should look into that.
Does this bother anyone else or no? Okay. No, that's interesting.
But yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, that blew my mind. This only happened, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. It was when he shared that with me. So
yeah, I like the detail though of the Gnarl Rock, because we know the Gnarl Rock corrupts anyone who touches it. And it makes me wonder, is Delilah Briarwood, would she want to get her hands on Ruidium in some way? What's the other stone?
Oh,
from Whitestone.
Oh, dang it. Residuum.
Residuum. Right. Man, we're big on powerful, powerful minerals, huh?
Unobtainium.
Yeah, actually, when you were first gonna name Ruidium, I just was laughing because I was envisioning unobtainium. Like, oh wow.
But I'm glad you brought up Delilah because, you know, we know that, again, not that the Gnarl Rock is Ruidium. I don't think it is. But, you know, she absorbed that, you know, or she clearly took it for her own use, being like, you don't know what to do with that. I'll take care of it. And again, we know that, spoilers, this isn't really a spoiler, but Delilah's like is dead. She exists in mines somehow. We don't really know the full story there. But we also know that during Legend of Vox Machina, during Campaign 1, they were trying, you know, with Vecna to, well, during Legend of Vox Machina, trying to like bring him back using a solstice. So Delilah is familiar with solstices, which means I'm sure as hell that she knows that there's an apogee coming, which maybe that's what she's working toward, you know, like with Laudna and with whoever else she's puppeting out there. Maybe she's setting up dominoes to bring herself back, potentially, or I don't know, but I think it definitely is another shoe to drop. There's or what's the phrase? Another shoe to drop?
Shoe to drop. Yeah.
With her that may present itself during the solstice in a month. So
I think that's very judgmental. She could have maybe learned the error of her ways, and she's, you know, was like, hey, this is very dangerous. Let me absorb it. And, you know, she's going to do something really good with it.
You might be right. Or maybe, you know, if it's not to bring herself back, maybe she's still trying to save her husband somehow. Maybe that's what she's operating toward.
Yeah, right. I was going to ask you about the Gnarl Rock. Wasn't there I forgot to mention in the recap, wasn't there a detail about, like, you mentioned the Gnarl Rock, remember? And Imogen was like, instantly cast command, like, stop. So use knowledgeable of the Gnarl Rock. And I think they ask about it. And didn't you say something like,
you confused me because I thought you were saying you as in me, and I was like, wait, what did I do? But I'm caught up now.
Didn't you say something about, like, anyone who's ever encountered, like, the fragments,
they always come back or something?
Yeah. What was the phrasing there? Like, because I got confused thinking, like, they can all, like, be summoned to the same spot. Like,
I took it to mean,
did you
like,
mean by that?
I don't know, but what I took it to mean was that it's like an addiction, like you'll be back, like you're gonna want to.
That does make more sense.
You know, get back to it, or come back to it, or get back to that power type of thing.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I had forgotten that I had forgotten that moment. So yeah, that's interesting. Which, I mean, if used from the Feywild, I guess it would make sense that they know about it. But yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. This is like total, like, Who's on Third vibes.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Does you know about it?
That's all I was thinking about when that was happening.
Wow. It's tough, man, because, like, man, that reading from that source book just makes me, like, all the more eager about, like, where the party's going and, like, what's going to happen, like the slow burn of it, and just being like, man, like, we've got the stakes feel unspokenly high, in the sense of, like, you know, it hasn't come from Matt directly yet. But with that source book, it's going to be hard if, like, next episode's like a shopping episode, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, I think we're not getting to what we just found out for a while, because I mean,
if they're not solving this in the next episode, I'm gonna lose.
You might want to temper your expectations.
All right, well, jeez, man,
that was like the big thing and the long thing. So I know this episode's already going kind of long. I don't know how much time you have, but there were just a couple other things I would mention. But if we need to end it here, that's fine.
No, you can hit me with it. Yeah.
All right. So, one quick thing while we're on Ruidus, as I thought it was cool that it was mentioned that it evades, like, devices trying to study it. You know, like, and so I just thought, which when I first made that note, I didn't know all the lore that I just dropped, but now it makes sense because it is seemingly some sentient alien power, right? Right. But I thought that was cool.
And what is the Unseelie Court Paragon's Call?
Yeah, what are they doing?
What are they building and pointing at Ruidus? Which I texted you and said, you know, could it mayhaps be a spell jammer of some kind?
Trying to get there, which in
Man, maybe they're
Imogen's
trying to go there.
dreams with Odahan's, well, I guess her dreams aren't necessarily taking place on the moon, but I don't know. It would make sense if Odahan wanted to get there for some reason. What I'm curious about is we know Odahan's connection because of Imogen's dreams. Like, she's clearly a Ruidium herself, probably. So that makes sense. But why is the Unseelie Court interested?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Is it because Odahan came to them and that, or do they have their own entry to this that we still are unaware of? But yeah, what is that device for?
What's the Moontide Crown, and why does it power it?
Right. What does that have to do with it? Then sorry, I'm going through my just Morrigan, some Mori stuff I wanted to briefly touch on. We basically got confirmed that she's an archfey. She has her own domain and she can control time within it.
Right. And that was also in the Tal'Dorei source book. We pretty much knew, but we didn't know if it was the same one.
Right.
Seemingly is. We also got confirmation that Morgan's not blood related to the Callaways or Fern.
Right. And, people know of Morgan and basically avoid her seemingly, which is why that was where Fern was stashed, because they thought, it'd be a safe place for her. So why did Morgan dilate time to spend 90 years with Fern? We know that Birdie mentioned like Morgan can get like unhealthily fixated on things. So was it because she just selfishly didn't want to lose this adopted daughter she had gotten, or did she need to age up Fern? Like, Fern would have been a baby, right? 7 years ago she was born. Did Fern need to become an adult?
Was she born 7 years ago, or it wasn't that just when they saw?
Oh, I guess that is just when
they decided to leave.
That's when
they stole the crown, I guess.
Well, 7 years ago is when the moon started appearing in the Fae.
Right.
So I don't necessarily know the exact timing of the other stuff.
Because 90 years have gone by, but she's like 112. So it's 22 years. 22 years old is when her parents left her.
Okay. See, that's where I was unfamiliar. So I wasn't sure if they just left her as a baby.
Assuming like there's not like a clunky retcon of some kind.
But so that was said, because that's what I missed.
She's aged herself as 112.
No, but the 22-year-old thing, like she said, that's when she was left with Morgan. Oh, well, you're saying I'm 122 minus 90.
Yeah, we know it's been 90 years. We know it's been 90 years.
True.
She's 112, so she had to have been 22 when they left.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then when they left at the age of 22, they gave her to Morgan. 90 years passed, but for them, it was only 6 years.
Yeah,
thinking their daughter would be 28.
Well, what's interesting is that she was born under the moon, and that's when things started getting weird, right? So it took them 22 years of like researching before they. And also, if they had a daughter for 22 years, how did other people not know about it? People like didn't know it existed.
The thing that's kind of weird, it's not really clear like the Callaway's place in the Fae. Because there's these contrasting like points of like we're important, we're kind of celebrities, and then like what you just pointed out, you wouldn't know that there was a daughter named Fern. So.
And is that celebrity truly the Callaway celebrity, or is it Morrigan's celebrity that she was referencing? Because that's really who she would know, and have grown up with. So maybe that's why like she was important.
Yeah. I mean, I will say though, assuming there isn't like a clunky mistake in like, oh no, I'm not 112, I'm actually 97 or 90 or whatever. Yeah. I do still like your theory though of Morgan wanting to take advantage of having kind of like a makeshift daughter, because we know that from Fern's stories that she had her own room, she had animals that she was friends with, like it was very fond memories. So it almost seems like Morgan treated her as her own. And
we know she made those postcards, like she went to the effort to
right, exactly. And so I really like that theory of yours. I'm gonna go with that. The thing that should really make you wonder what's going on is why did Morgan decide to take Fern out of this? I'm just gonna call it a time bubble. Why did Morgan decide to take Fern out, lead her to ultimately Exandria? Like, why is it like you're going on a mission now?
Right.
And why did she give her the weave lens, which
Right.
seems to be an object that can detect magical items? So, like, it's been 90 years, and now all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you need to
Like
go
like
basically
what
find your
changed?
parents.
Like why?
Yeah,
Yeah, why not
exactly,
send just any operative to go deliver that?
exactly.
You
Why did
know.
it need to be Fern?
So that
So
yeah.
I'm
So
wondering
that's
if. Sorry, I was just gonna say, I wonder
oh,
if
go ahead.
Morrigan had like a vision or a premonition or something that spooked her and was like, oh, like this is like what Birdie and Ollie are doing. Like this really is like into the world kind of stuff. And if she's timey wimey, maybe she's seen the future and knows it needs to be Fern. I don't know, like a Tony Stark kind of thing. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So that's why I was wondering if there is some greater plan that, or, plan for lack of a better word, but maybe the 90-year age was necessary to get Fern like ready. Like maybe you couldn't send a 22-year-old to do this. She's like, like, no, I got to cultivate Fern first. So maybe the 90 years
Yeah.
was more than just, oh, I don't want to lose this, but maybe it was like prepping her because, yeah, why all of a sudden let her go? And then there's still, I don't want to get into it again because we get into it every time, but there's still the whole modified memory thing going on too, which it might end up being that was just a flavor kind of thing happening in the moment during EXU, and there's not some greater thing to uncover there. But yeah, very interested. But obviously an Archfey, not affiliated with either court directly. If I recall correctly. Um, and yeah, it's just very, very interesting. I want to learn more about her since she's seemingly very powerful.
I'm trying to find the info from the Tal'Dorei Reborn source book because I want to know what they say about Morrigan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
I'll kind of spew a bit while you're looking that up because I had some other stuff. This is just completely random, and I don't actually ship this theory or anything. But Morrigan, we know, is an Archfey, powerful, and almost every time she's brought up, it feels like Fern mentioned how she's a great artist and loves to paint. So, to me, for all my other people that have watched the first couple campaigns, it just got me thinking about our boy Artagan, also a powerful Archfey, also artistic. I wonder if they're related.
mm.
Also, which I don't know if this is something all Archfey can do, but we know that Artagan also had the ability to control the time dilation from when someone exited the Feywild, which seemingly Morrigan can do that. So that's just my crazy tinfoil hat connection for now. Let me know what you think.
No, I like that. Sorry, I'm like we talked about this forever ago, and I'm having a tough time like finding the actual
Yeah, no worries.
article on it.
And I also wondered what. So we were wondering what the Unseelie Quartz device actually does. I wonder what the Callaway Ira device actually does. I mean, seemingly, if they're going to point the weave lens at it, maybe they're just hoping that the weave lens gives them some information and they just know more of what they're dealing with. But really curious as to what they hope to accomplish with whatever device they're building.
Right. Man, I apologize, guys. I can't remember where this was. It's like I think it's like in one of the. I thought it was Tal'Dorei Reborn, but I'm not seeing it in here. Man, or maybe I was reading about the War Queen or something, and it pulled up Morrigan.
Maybe you're thinking of just like the Wizards of the Coast, like normal D&D lore.
I did find that, but it wasn't ringing any bells for me in what I had read earlier. So I don't know if I'm like just filling in the blank with like my own like misremembrance, or if there was actually something more there. But I was just really curious about I was just really curious because she's mentioned I feel like in a source book, but maybe not.
Well, let us know down in the comments if you know what we're talking about and you're like, hey, morons, it's right here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. Okay. Interesting.
the only other tiny thing I had was that I don't remember where they were, like geographically, but when they were traveling in some jungle, Bell's Hells, and they found those ruins, and Imogen took a piece. I was wondering if and I don't really think it makes sense because, but anyway, I'll say it anyway. I wondered if those were Kelmoro ruins.
Ooh, yeah, interesting. Wait, Kelmoro, that's the name of the place, right?
That's the place that got speared into the earth. So
okay,
I don't know why ruins would be in the jungle.
Like,
but
hang on, Kelmoro. Hang on now.
Cael.
Yeah. I think there was an article on that. It might just be people updating the
wiki.
In Exandria Unlimited Calamity, Britton Lee Mulligan mentions Kelmoro by its current name. However, at the time, the city wasn't yet called the Drowned City, because that is the name that was given to it by modern scholars.
Right.
So I don't even remember him mentioning that. So I'll have to check that out too.
Yeah, because it wasn't called Kelmoro. That's just what we call it. It had another name, but I don't think we knew it. So it was called Kelmoro, and then it's now called the Drowned City or whatever once it was discovered underneath on Corel.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I wish I had a better, more insight there, other than just I'll have to go back and do some digging, and then maybe we'll update in a comment or something. But yeah. So
a lot this episode, man.
Crazy stuff. Seems like we got an awesome episode coming up this next Thursday. I'm really excited for it. So
yeah, me too. But don't expect to find out about the alien Ruidium yet.
If it doesn't happen, I'm gonna riot. So we're at 979 subscribers. So 21
nice.
more.
21 more. Let's go.
We'll do our giveaway. So if you made it this far, almost 2 hours deep on our recap or episode today, throw us a sub if you want. And we appreciate the shout outs and just you being part of this D&D journey with us. We're happy to continue making content. So thanks for being a part. Thumbnail?
You had an idea earlier. I forgot what it was though. Remember?
Definitely like the mind blown. Like,
oh yeah. Okay.
That's how I'm feeling right now already. Yeah. So
I think, what was I supposed to do? Because you had two parts.
You were like doing almost like you were like giving an insightful, something. Are you ready now? Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. You can check us out on Twitter at the Pixelists, and we're also on every podcast platform if you prefer to listen to us there. Other than that, I think that's all we got.
Yeah. See you guys soon.
See ya.
Bye, y'all.